All right, aloha, friends. Happy Thursday. Hopefully, you're enjoying your day and your week. I'm Brian Goss. It's game time with the Goss, presented by GM Sports Media and Get Recruited websites. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Randy Jackson, Greenville football coach. Um, he's a great coach, great guy, great guest picker. He's an author, and he joins me today. Thanks, Coach, for hopping on for a bit. Um, the last week or so has been kind of a whirlwind for you. Darren Duke used to be at Greenville. He resigned, and then 2 or 3 days later, your name pops up, Randy Jackson. To kind of a surprise for me, but I was delighted for you to come back in this area. Just um, how did that all happen last week?
Well, it was something like you say, it was a total whirlwind. I moved to Fort Worth about 3 weeks ago. So I was going to go and be a junior high play caller for Fort Worth All Saints and just to be on a team and coach. And then this just popped up, and I've been in Hunt County and I really didn't think I ever wanted to be a head coach again. It's a lot of, I mean, it's like running a corporation. But when this popped up, practice was starting in 4 days. I'm like, let's go. And I'm thrilled. The kids are bought in, the coaches have bought in, and it's a work in progress for sure, but it's exciting.
You used to coach at Greenville in the '90s. Do you know if they were your first? Were you their first call after Coach Duke left?
I really don't know. But again, this could be unprecedented 4 days before practice starts. So, I mean, they told me they were looking for a retired coach, someone who's, even though it's a new situation, had taken over programs before. So, probably just kind of a perfect storm where um, I was wanting something more and they needed a coach. So, there wouldn't be a whole ton of retired coaches to call, I wouldn't think.
And then just what I mean, what is obviously your focus is this year, but do you just kind of play it by year, or do you kind of help find another coach, or are you thinking you're going to be past this year, or you'll still be there in Greenville?
Well, I'm an interim, which I totally understand they had to do. So my contract's through December, and I guess we'll just see. Um, I haven't coached in 3 years, so I'm more tired than I've been in a long time, but I'm also more rejuvenated and excited than I've been in a long time. So I think we both just got to see if we're a good fit or not. That's the thing that I'm not sure everybody understands. There's a lot of great coaches out there and a lot of great schools, but it all comes down to, is it the right fit? And so that's what's good about this situation. We can take the next few months and just see if we're the right fit for each other.
You mentioned you thought about going to All Saints at the junior high. Was that already a lock, or was that still? Were you still in the process of joining them?
No, that was a lock, and he's a good friend of mine, Aaron Beck, one of my like good friends. So he was very understanding. I was just going to go coach like 2.5 hours a day and just kind of have something to do. So he understood totally the difference in being a athletic director, head football coach versus a part-time junior high coach. And so he didn't put me in a headlock or anything.
Uh, or is it one of those things that the news comes out that you're joining Greenville and you're right there in practice, or the next day, meeting the kids and the other coaches?
Yeah, it was surreal. I mean, I was announced on Thursday. I think I knew about two of the coaches on the staff and met the kids that afternoon. And on Sunday night, we had Midnight Madness. We installed a new offense. I mean, I I'm still learning kids' names, and so it is. It's a I just wrote a book about my season in Germany, and I used the kind of example of like I took Texas high school football and I took it to Germany, and it was like a laboratory. And so, how would things in Texas how would they work in Germany? And I think I thought that was the ultimate laboratory. We had guys from 18 different countries who converged in Potsdam like 3 days before training camp started. But I think this might be the ultimate laboratory because, I mean, these guys in Germany, I had Zoomed with them and they knew the offense coming in. And these guys are just learning on the run. And, every adult's different. So I'm saying, hey, here's how I like to do this. And not just football stuff, just here's how I like to do this. Here's like to. So kids are resilient and they've been open to the changes, but there's been changes.
I mean, you come in as this new face and interim head coach is your title, but what's the message that you told your kids that first day you met them?
Okay, great question. I told them, and this helps me a lot. I've got a little bit of street cred as far as, Poteet is in our district. And so we had a great turnaround at Poteet, all because of the players. We had a slow turnaround, but we had a really good turnaround at Grapevine. And at North Forney, we had a turnaround. And the one at Poteet happened immediately because the players were sick of it. They were just fed up. The one at Grapevine took a year or so because they weren't fed up. And I had to honestly work on the next group. And then the one at North Forney took about half a year. So the first 6 games, at least one starter was suspended for those first 6 games. And after about week 6, they realized that I wasn't going to budge. And they got on board and we went 3 rounds. So my message was, this can turn around immediately. It can be really hard and we can get better as the season goes, like North Forney, or if they keep me and I want to come back, it can be next year. But it's going to happen. It just all depends on the seniors and do you guys, are you fed up or not? Do you want it to happen this year? If you do, it can. And so it's nice to be able to tell them with some experience of, I've been a part of this before. If you'll just trust me and get in the wheelbarrow. And so far they've got in.
Talking with Randy Jackson, Greenville interim football coach. You've been coaching football for a long time. You mentioned some stops, some others: Paducah, Mason, DeKalb, Lone Oak, Poteet, Plano East, Grapevine, and most recently North Forney. During 2020, you've won 170 games in your coaching career. You retire after the 20 season with North Forney, and then last year you mentioned coaching in Germany with the Potsdam Royals. Just curious how that kind of fell in your lap to go and coach football in Germany.
It's one of those things I'd always wanted to do. I didn't really know how. So I when I retired, I, like everyone, I learned how to Zoom during COVID. And so I started selling my offensive system called Fast and Wide and got enough clients that I could, with my pension and Fast and Wide, that I could pay the light bill. And so one of our coaches in Fast and Wide said, hey, I know this is a long shot, but does anyone want to coach in Germany? And so I had gotten bored. I mean, coaches, we just move 100 miles an hour and all that stuff. And so even though I could make a living just Zooming and all that, I got bored, explored the German thing and went over there for 6 months, came back, spent the next 6 months writing a book about it, and then got bored again. And so here I am. But yeah, the German European football, they paid my ticket over there. They gave me an apartment and paid all my bills and $1,000 a month. So it is a niche thing over there, and there's not much money. You have to almost have you almost have to be drawing a pension to be able to afford it. But I'll never forget doing it. It was a great adventure.
Just differences between football in Germany and here in Texas in the U.S.
We played NCAA rules. So here's the biggest difference. Football, especially in Texas, football comes to you. You know, it's easy. In Germany, I had a center, and I would ask these guys, hey, how did you start playing football? And I had a center who was in his 30s who said he read a Sports Illustrated article when he was 19, and he got interested in football. The closest town that played was an hour away, and so he saved money and got a car so he could go to practice. And so it's about like Division III football at the college level. You can have two Americans on the field at one time. So we had a starting receiver who started at Penn State at one time. He was 25 years old. Our quarterback started at Southern Utah. And then we had a receiver with German grandparents who didn't count against us, who played at Villanova. He was from New York, and running back from Finland, and just guys everywhere. But I really relate it to if we were going to start a rugby program in Dallas. If we had a couple of New Zealanders, they would just be a lot better because they understand the game better. And so the Americans, every team has two Americans on offense and two on defense, and they're always skill guys on offense and secondary guys who can cover them on defense. It's really fascinating.
Again, that's Potsdam Royals in Potsdam, Germany. So, I mean, you didn't have to learn much German?
No, all the coaching is in English.
Okay.
If you really want to realize how much smarter, like all those guys over there know 3 languages, and for the average European that I was around doesn't watch TikTok quite as much as we do in America. But so yeah, it was all English, and it was easy.
I mean, outside of the football, I mean, what's the most interesting story you have about Germany?
Well, there's a ton, but Potsdam, this was the neatest thing for me as a history guy. So we're called the Royals because Potsdam was the capital of Prussia. So there's 17 palaces there, and they're pretty ornate. But seems like a lot of people have not seen this movie, but Tom Hanks was in a movie called Bridge of Spies. So Potsdam basically is sort of a border of this county of Berlin. And so when America and Russia would trade spies in the Cold War, they would do it on this bridge in Potsdam. And the bridge, even today, is 2 different colors. And so you can see the exact middle. And so there was a lot of fascinating things there of history. You know, I ate at restaurants that have continuously served food longer than the United States has been a country. And that's just really I mean, that's pretty cool. And so there's a lot of old history there, of course. And then the Cold War history with the Berlin Wall, I really enjoyed. So Potsdam was behind the wall, and everyone there learned how to speak Russian until the wall fell in 1990. So it's almost a given. Anyone 45 years or younger speaks English, and anyone 45 years or older speaks Russian. So it's kind of neat just to be in a town that saw just that massive change with the wall coming down.
What's the best thing you ate?
I'm gonna say honestly, for German food is not the best, but they have something called pork knuckle, which is it's almost like the femur of a pig or something. And I don't mean to gross people out, but it was excellent. But for the most part, even Germans don't. Most of the food you'd buy at a cafe or something is Italian or Asian. And so as far as like true German food, the schnitzel is really good, the bratwurst, but the pork knuckle is probably my biggest memory.
Sauerkraut?
Not a sauerkraut guy, so I couldn't give you a Yelp review on that.
What about driving? Are they on the opposite side?
No, they're on our side, and they told me I did not need a car. And so for the first 2 months, I rode public transportation, which a Texas guy, we don't have public transportation here. And so after 2 months, I asked for a car, and it made my life a lot easier. But I'll say this: the biggest memory I have probably total is the Autobahn. Um, very systematic. Everyone in Germany are rule followers. And so that far left lane, they're driving 150 miles an hour and no one gets in the way. And so diesel trucks, there's 3 lanes. Diesel trucks have to drive in the far right lane. They're not allowed to be anywhere else. The middle lane is for passenger cars that aren't driving, and the left lane is for Mario Andretti's. So it was neat.
Talking with Randy Jackson with Greenville football. Again, you were with Greenville in the early to mid '90s. I've never been to Greenville, but has much changed in the last 3 decades?
Yeah, a lot more. It's on Interstate 30. And for any of the listeners who are kind of familiar with this area, but Roy City just exploded 20 years ago. And Greenville hasn't exploded yet, but it's coming. And so Greenville's only 25 miles from Rockwall. And so there's a lot more restaurants than there used to be here. And yeah, it's I think I'm guessing 22,000, something like that, maybe a town of 25,000, but it is kind of what coaches say is exactly what you're looking for is a one high school 5A town. And so the middle school, they're red and white and they're the Lions, and everybody you would think would take that for granted, but a lot of your multi-schools, your middle school's a different color and a different mascot. And so this is one of those places you could build something because everyone's pointing the same direction. I mean, there's no one else here but red and white Lions.
And did they just they really love their sports and athletics there in Greenville?
Yeah, I mean, it's a typical town, and but just like everybody, we need to have some success. And a lot of people have come by and welcomed me and all, but when we start winning games, everyone will get excited just like everywhere else. And until then, they're hoping for the best. And so we've got to do our part, and then this place will catch on fire like everybody does.
I mean, you've coached so many stops and so many players. This is a difficult question to answer, but who's the best player you've ever coached as a head coach?
Wow, that is a tough one.
Or a couple, one or two of them.
Yeah, Malik Jefferson plays for the Cowboys. He was the biggest recruit in Texas at Poteet. Rod Brown, I had Rod Brown at North Forney as a defensive tackle, and he started at North Texas since he's walked on the field there, and he's still there. He's probably honestly, and this is how football works. If he was 2 or 3 inches taller, he would have went to Notre Dame or Texas or wherever he would have wanted to. And so I tell parents this: it's not the best football players that get scholarships; it's the best tall football players that get scholarships. But both those guys come to mind. I've been a coach so long that I know I'm forgetting people, but those are the first 2 that jump out.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was a dual threat quarterback at North Forney when you guys made that pretty good run in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was a big Roethlisberger type of guy. He was outstanding. He had 10 touchdowns in one game combined, like rushing and pass. He tied a Texas record. He'll start at Houston Christian this year. I think FCS. I think they've moved up to FCS.
What was his name?
His name is Colby Suits.
Suits, yeah.
Yeah, he was really good. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, but in 2010, when we had the miracle season at Poteet, our quarterback named Bo Now was, and it's funny, Suits' brother was a linebacker on that Poteet team. So I've got to coach 2 brothers at 2 different schools, but Bo Now is the grittiest, toughest quarterback or player that I've ever coached. So I'm glad we talked about this long enough for me to mention Bo Now.
Like I mentioned in the beginning, you're also an author. You've written 3 books, most recently, Royal Season, which just documents your time in Potsdam, Germany. I believe your first book was Culture Defeats Strategy. Just where did that come from about, the desire to write a book?
I've always loved teaching, and I've always wanted to help other coaches. I think coaching is the most honorable profession. And so I hired a mental coach in 2015, and he just pulled the curtain back on some mental game things that most people just aren't exposed to. He was not cheap, and he's really more of a baseball guy. And so he showed us a really, just how to do intentional core values, how to do a player's creed. And so he mentioned me writing a book in about 2016, and I really thought you had to win a state championship before you should write a book, but I did it anyway. I've sold over 10,000 copies of that first book, and it really is just kind of a paint by numbers of how you do it. The second book kind of just kind of went farther, and then this book, A Royal Season, again, they're all written for coaches. But a Royal Season takes you into the coaches meeting or the players meetings, how we did a players creed, and just the craziness of Europe. So you wouldn't have to be a coach to enjoy it, but all of them are going to have stories you can use with your team and tactics you can use with your team.
Then all your books, I guess Amazon is a good place to go find those.
Yes, sir. Amazon is, they started as a book company. So I used to sell them on my website as well, but I knew taking this job in Greenville, I don't have time to be mailing books. So it's Amazon, and, it's 2 days later, you'll have a book. It's print on demand, and I don't know how they do it, but it doesn't take long to get it.
I mean, is it safe to say that you have 1 or 2 more books in you that you'll write?
Yes, I enjoyed the writing, honestly. This is probably a book. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the first book of an American coach going to Germany was but I think I'm not sure how many coaches have taken over 4 days before fall camp started and did, so I'm documenting what I'm telling the players every day and what I'm telling the coaches. And if it's something that can help coaches, then I will certainly write a book about it.
I'll get you out on this, but just looking ahead this fall with schedules and players, and you mentioned you're still kind of learning your players' names, but can you give us an idea of, is this a young team, older team? Is there a large amount of returners back?
We only have 12 seniors. So at the 5A levels, the lowest I've ever had. So our junior class is pretty big, and so it'll be a work in progress. We're going to get better every day, but it's certainly not a young team. I mean, it is going to be a heavy junior team.
And then just what upcoming schedule with scrimmages and week 1, week 2 opponents.
We go to Mount Pleasant for our scrimmage next week, and we host Lake Dallas week 1. And I'll be totally honest with you, I do not know who we play week 2. It's either Frisco Heritage or Chapel Hill. And I use the analogy of when you drive at night, you just have to, those headlights go about 200 feet. And if you just follow those headlights, you can go anywhere. And I'm looking about 200 feet ahead is about all I'm looking. So I think if I'm looking farther ahead than that, I'm going to stunt my toe.
Awesome. But we wish you the best of luck there, Coach. And thanks for hopping on for a bit.
Yes, sir. I'm honored to be here, man. And you're a rock star, so this is going to go big, and I'm going to be proud to say I was one of your guests. So thanks for having me.
I guess since you're coaching now, that I have to scratch you off the guest pickers list, right?
Well, I hope so. I hope the playoffs, but yeah, that was, and I'll tell you, I got back from Germany, and I think I guest picked like 2 weeks later. And so I had some connections, coaches like, hey, give me some help here. So I'll just say I'll admit for the first time, you know, that it wasn't just my slide rule that helped me. I had some insider info.
Nothing wrong with that, but
Yeah.
you had some battles there with Matt Diggs, so
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate you, buddy. Come to Greenville. You say you've never been here. Come here and we'll give you something to eat. Let you stand on the sideline. We'll treat you like the rock star that you are.
awesome. I appreciate Coach. That's Randy Jackson, football coach there at Greenville Lions. Best of luck. And thanks for joining in. I'm Brian Gossett, another episode of Game Time with the Goss. Check us out on YouTube and our website, gmsportsmedia.com. We'll see you next time and enjoy the rest of your week.